Welcome to the Sage Thought Leadership Podcast, transforming the way people think and work so their organizations can thrive. Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to our podcast. I'm Ed Kless, and with me today for the second time is Dmitry Karpov. Dmitry is co-founder and chief innovation officer at ElectroNeek Robotics, an award-winning RPA platform for managed service providers and IT teams. ElectroNeek was founded in 2019, and it took the company less than 2 years to be named a momentum leader, along with the global RPA leaders, report a 5x annual revenue growth in 2020, and reach $100 million in valuation after a Series A funding in May of 2021. Now the company has more than 200 partners globally, including Fortune 500 companies. Dmitry believes that this rapid growth is a product of ElectroNeek's dedicated team and the company's key mission to enable and support automation businesses across the world. Welcome back to the Sage Thought Leadership Podcast, Dmitry Karpov.
Thank you, Ed. My big pleasure.
Well, since you've been on before and you're what I like to call a recidivist guest, we'll dispense with the why question and jump right into the conversation. You have an upcoming session at the AICPA Engage conference and entitled Building and Growing a Robotic Process Automation Business. Tell me about that session.
Thank you, Ed. So the major reason that brings me here today is that I really want to drive the change in accounting industry, specifically in accounting managed service provider businesses. I want accounting MSPs to become the agents of change in the business world and to bring more and more automations to their clients. And during our journey over the last 2 years, we work with many accounting firms as end users. They build bots for themselves, but we also have clients who build bots for others, and they're very successful. We want to have more like that, and because of that, we combine some of the learnings we have and want to present them to a bigger accounting community, to leadership, to technologists, to pretty much educate them on how big is the opportunity ahead of them, in front of them, in the United States, globally, and what they can do to join this great growing market.
And why accountants?
I think accountants have pretty much three very strong differentiators from other industries and functions that make them perfect agents of change for automation in the world. First of all, accountants typically know their clients' business processes. And in any kind of IT services business, it's very important to know your client processes because it's a different type of the value add you provide. The first one. Second one, many accounting firms already have growing MSP practices that are skilled in complex IT solutions like ERP systems, Oracle NetSuite, or accounting systems, Sage X3. And because of that, they are ready from people perspective. Not so much training is required. And third one, accounting firms, at least perceived as having a lot of routine processes. And because of that, you can do the best practice of automating internally and transferring that learnings into a client service. And just for instance, you can say that we are accounting firms. We automated hundreds of things inside us. We can help you as well. And it sounds trustable because everybody knows that accounting involves a lot of small and big routine processes.
And you're seeing that these accounting firms are working with the service providers to create the bots themselves, right? So well, I imagine that some of the accounting firms do have the capability to do it on their own and have embraced that and are doing it. But you're also seeing them work more and more with other service providers since they know the business flow, the process. They're working with others to create the actual bot. Is that the case?
That's true. And this is the most comfortable model for smaller CPA firms. I recently talked to around 20 top accounting firms in the States, and I think they can very confidently say that around 10 of them already have dedicated teams inside focused on internal automation. And around 5 of them, they have RPA practices for their clients. That's where they provide RPA bot development as part of their services. But for smaller firms, they want to buy solutions, not the software, and they are clients of bigger MSPs.
And that's been working out well. What are some of the processes that you think are most automated by the accountants? I mean, it can clearly run the entire gamut, but what are some of the things that are most popular, so to speak?
maybe due to the busy season, but what we've seen this spring essentially was about connecting accounting systems with your tax systems. A lot of data migration between these worlds of tax and accounting.
And talk a little bit about building the practice itself. Why is that why is that so important? How you're really focusing on building these accounting firms to be able to do their create their own business, sub business in it. So talk about that.
Yes. So we are not a software vendor in the pure sense of this word. We have a product, but we want to be a software partner for those accounting firms or MSPs in general that want to start a practice. Starting in practice is not about using the software, it's about entrepreneurship. It's about the full cycle from who's your target buyer, how you find them, what you offer them, what kind of value add you have, how you build your brand, and how you scale up. So it comes to me to three major items. People, that's pretty much if you already have MSP practice, that's the people who work there. For ElectroNeek, for instance, you really need the basic understanding of processes and basic knowledge of JavaScript because most of the technology is no code, low code. You need to have some kind of advisory skills because you will be advising your clients on how to deploy the bots. Technology, that's pretty much RPA platform. And you need to have go-to-market. And go-to-market is very challenging for many firms that start RPA business because it's not only complex technology, there's so many ways you can build bots for your clients and deploy them in their infrastructure, in your own infrastructure, in cloud, on-premise. So many options and many entrepreneurs, they get lost. They get lost in the weeds because they don't know where to start. And we developed partnership program pretty much takes them from the status from where they are today to this case where they start growing their client portfolio. But this is just the start. And for many firms, they have the struggle of scaling this business up. It's surprising how much opportunity is ahead in SMB segment, in mid-market segment. RPA penetration, there's maybe 5%, 10%. But there's just not enough entrepreneurship in this space. And we focus pretty much our technology roadmap, our services on enabling these people to move forward. For instance, for many firms, it's very hard to keep up margin as they scale because competition in the space is increasing. So we developed the pricing model to keep them competitive. Also, we worked on reusable components library, which pretty much means you build a bot for one of your clients, and now you have another client who wants a similar bot. For you building that bot and deploying that will be much higher margin service because you don't need to do much reworks. So that pretty much comes down to scaling.
Of course, you have to overcome the fact that far too many accountants still worry about, well, this is going to reduce the number of billable hours that I'm going to get.
That's true, but I think the most progressive accountant MSPs are already moving from billable hours model and very happy. In the end of the day, it's about building recurring revenue. That's, I think, one of the most attractive things in automation, that your clients rely on you as a solution provider. You can build them annually, monthly, doesn't matter, but you will build them as long as they use your bots. And it allows you to create recurring revenue that increases the value of your business. It was very similar to the age of on-prem implementations of ERP solutions that everyone was very happy. Now as we transition to cloud, the margin of services kind of has some pressure on it. And I think that RPA is a good chance for the firms to get up to the healthier margins, but forget about billable hours.
Yep. Well, totally agree with you there. That's been a big mantra of mine for decades. But I wanted to ask you this. I think we talked about this last time, but curious as your thinking has begun to evolve around this. A lot of people concerned the bots are coming to take my job. We're not going to have any work to do because the bots are going to completely take over. What's your response to that?
So that thinking as a producer of marketing or Big Four and early RPA vendors, that pretty much our technology was very complex. So to make someone buy it from you, you convince them they will achieve some cost reductions. And then people thought about RPA as a kind of job elimination work. It happens that it's quite opposite. Not so many people, not so many companies, they embrace RPA to reduce their headcount. Mostly it's opposite. It's to reduce the overload on their people or to start growing without significantly increasing the headcount. And we kind of broke that stigma. We think about us as the only one vendor that helps to create jobs because we work with MSPs that hire people and create jobs in automation space, but not to reduce the jobs. Because what they do for their clients, these bots could be very, very small, but they sell them in great quantity. they can save maybe 30 minutes here, 1 hour here, 5 hours here. We shouldn't talk about job elimination or job reduction. I think automation in general is about empowering people to do more rather than empowering businesses to have less people.
Absolutely. And just think about it. Your company did not exist 2 years ago. And how many jobs have not only you created inside your organization, but also externally as well? New jobs get created, and there are jobs that we can't even think about that are yet to be created around RPA.
That's absolutely correct. I mean, we created 100 jobs inside the company ourselves, but but when it comes to our clients, we've seen some of them growing really fast from a few developers, essentially small boutique shop, into bigger firms. And all that comes from the fact that because they have recurring revenue from these automation services, they have easier access to capital sources that they need to scale up.
Yep. And these jobs did not exist 5 years ago. That's what I find so fascinating. They weren't even foreseen that they could exist. And that's what's so great about it. Well, Dmitry, we have an exit question that we ask all our guests, and that's, who is a hero of yours and why are they a hero?
That's as usual my wife, because she empowers me to be here and to focus on the work I do and focus on building the company while keeping the back end of our family happy and healthy.
All right, Dmitry Karpov. Oh, Leslie, how can somebody contact you?
We have our corporate website, electroneek.com, and we do have there a dedicated page for Sage users. So it's electroneek.com/Sage. If you can go there and you're currently customer of Sage, you can get 10% discount on any of our software.
All right. And ElectroNeek, just to spell it out for those of you who are just listening, is ElectroNeek. So electroneek.com/Sage. Dmitry Karpov, co-founder and chief innovation officer at ElectroNeek. Thanks so much for being a guest on the Sage Thought Leadership Podcast.
Thank you, Ed.
Review and subscribe by searching your podcast player of choice for Sage Thought Leadership Podcast.